everyone. Welcome to our podcast. I'm Hansel Lin. I'm here with my best friend, Wayne Tang. We wrote a book, which, like this podcast, is also called The Coder Bros Go to White Castle. It's a book about our story, how we grew up Asian, how we became best friends, and how we found our White Castle. Only our metaphorical destination wasn't a fast food joint, but an awesome little business called the Coder School that we now run together. So we started this podcast to explore the stories of other Asian Americans like us and how they write their own book, what they think of as their White Castle, how they got there, or how they see being Asian, and anything else in between. So let's get to it. Wayne, are you there? Let's introduce our guest today.
Yeah, hey, I'm Wayne, and heck yeah, I'm psyched to introduce our guest today. He's been a longtime friend of ours from what I like to describe as our Asian circle. Beyond
Back
that,
in the
he's
party
done it
days.
all. Yeah, back in the party days. We'll get to all of that. He hails from Stanford, has had a tremendous professional career as an executive at large organizations such as PayPal, Visa. He's even done the startups as well. He's a family man. And what I recently learned, has authored at least 2 books and maybe more. We'll find out. His name is
More or less
Alan.
than us, Wayne.
Yeah, exactly. His name is Alan Tien. And welcome to the podcast. Hey, Alan. To start us off, can you just briefly let us know what you're up to currently? It's been a while, so catch us up, or at least catch me up.
Hey guys, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Really excited to have you guys kick this off. It's great to share these stories with other Asians. I'm just hanging out in Hawaii, so I'm in retirement mode. And
Aloha, aloha.
aloha.
We're
As
all
Hansel
very
knows,
jealous.
I just got a new pad here, so I am nesting or adulting. My son's adulting in San Francisco, and I'm adulting here in Hawaii.
That sounds
What a life,
awesome.
man. So you're in retirement mode. What does that exactly mean? How do you spend your days in retirement mode? Just looking at the ocean?
You know, when you first leave a job, you're very aware of every day that you're not working and what should I be doing today? But the good news is after a while, it just kind of blends in. Like when you're on vacation, like day 5, you kind of lose track of time and day, and
Hmm,
and then all of a sudden it's time to go home. Well, this is like that day 5, except you don't have to go home.
that's awesome. I love
So,
that.
so, so you're not only in retirement mode, you're like way beyond retirement mode. You're just like chill, total
I
chill. That's
am just
amazing.
chilling. I'll tell you more about what I love is the flexibility to do stuff that I want when that stuff pops up, and we'll get to some of these later on. But traveling with my mom around the world because she's 83, and I want to be able to take her out, and if I'm working, I don't have the time to do that. Or working with Stanford to launch the Asian American Research Center. That it doesn't. None of these things take a ton of time. It's just sometimes it takes a contiguous amount of time or a block of time. And recently, my latest project that I'm dealing with that's actually tied in with you guys is I'm wrestling with Claude AI on a programming project because I don't want to program and I want Claude to do it, but Claude's not quite at AI level yet.
Very
Wow,
cool.
you're actually using AI to code. So you're like a coder.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like a
right.
product manager. I tell the coder what to do, and I'm like, that's bullcrap. What did you program here?
Yeah, that's
So
classic.
Alan, so you're
Yeah.
retired now. What is the sort of the last? How did you get to there? What was the last thing you did? How would you identify yourself as? This was the guy I did before retiring.
Funny, I tend to go back to PayPal, even though it's been more than 10 years. And then since then, I had Visa, and then I worked for my father-in-law in real estate in the Bay Area. And then I had a short stint at a bank here in Honolulu called Central Pacific Bank. Um, but if you ask me what's my real job or last job, I always think of PayPal.
PayPal, and were you like you were PayPal China? Were you like what were you doing with PayPal?
Yeah, I actually started in '02, so that's pretty early, 2002, but they had actually gone public already, so it wasn't that small. It's like 500 people
Mm.
in Mountain View. I started as a product manager there, and we launched merchant services, but at the time we didn't even know that's what the industry called it. We just called it off eBay. And so basically all the sites that were not eBay. And
Off
literally,
eBay.
yeah, back then, you remember eBay
Yeah,
just bought PayPal. So PayPal was really just a
right.
eBay payment tool.
Right.
And I'm sure most of the listeners now are like, what's eBay?
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good point.
so,
It's
but
still
a couple of
around,
years
man.
in, yeah, a couple of years in,
Yeah.
2005, well, 2004, I started on the China project, and then 2005, we launched PayPal for China and moved out, and I moved with my family out in 2005 to China.
Yeah, so I actually I think that's one of the more interesting aspect of how I know you at least. So you actually moved your entire so you have a wife Mei Ling and then you have a kid Kyle. Everybody moved to Shanghai, right? Was that where you were at?
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, I'll back up a little bit because I had 10 years in the Valley, Silicon Valley. So it wasn't like, I was a newbie going. Um, and, but, the PayPal opportunity showed up. And, if you'll remember that time, it was the dot-com winter. So there was nothing going on in Silicon Valley. Everyone was looking for a job. And I was very fortunate to have gotten into PayPal. And then China was getting rip-roaring hot. And you'll know Bennett,
Yeah.
our other great friend Bennett Yen, was just came back from Oracle trip, and he's like, "Hey, Alan, China's the new Silicon Valley. We got to go there." And I was laughing at him. I was like, "I'm Asian American. I can barely speak Chinese. I can say ni hao, right? It's like
Yeah,
what
there you
what
go.
else what else do I'm not going to go back there." But a year later, I was there with him, and there was a flood of Asian Americans who came back because everyone saw the new gold rush. So I was started off as a chief product manager for PayPal China, launching my product. We were originally going after the domestic market, meaning hoping all Chinese would use PayPal. But as most of you probably know, Alibaba is now the winner. They launched Taobao as a defensive measure against eBay, and then ended up just crushing us. And PayPal was basically along for the ride. So I had like a ringside seat of this terrible boxing match, getting spattered
Oh,
with
wow.
blood. Um, but eventually we pivoted. PayPal did. eBay did a joint venture and got out of China. PayPal pivoted and we found our cross-border business, which basically means anyone in China selling goods to the rest of the world, not just the U.S., but Japan, Germany, UK, Australia. No one's really excited about giving their credit card to a Chinese merchant. So this is really where PayPal stepped in and
Nice.
offered that layer of security and convenience and basically enabled the whole business. So that's my favorite part of my working career in that I felt good about helping individual Chinese merchants make money, as opposed to like, just helping another rich bank get richer or rich, enterprise get stronger.
Yeah.
That's actually a really great idea because the PayPal name, the brand, is somebody I would trust versus some random Asian dude. I would just think, wait, who's this guy in China that I don't know? That's a
No,
great
Yeah,
idea.
and
But
absolutely.
you
it
did
was
make a lot of
perfect for
money for
both
PayPal
sides
though.
too. It was perfect for
Yeah.
both sides too because the merchants in China, they had no way that they can,
Yeah.
advertise or send their promise of security to 150 million buyers from around the world. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
So,
and
so
your good point, Hansel. It's like I think we were very fortunate in our timing in that this is when corporations really just started doing giving stock options out to employees. So imagine 20 years ago or 30 years ago doing this at Intel or whatever. You're not sharing the upside.
yeah, that's nice. So then after that, do you now 讲国语?
会讲一点，
Yeah. Yeah.
讲一点.
Oh, yeah. Listen
Nice.
to that. Yeah.
做那
That
里
sounded
8年应
fluent.
该好多了，right？
Whoa. Okay. I'm
That's
still at
awesome.
you 20 years ago before you went there. I'm still at the ni hao ma,
Yeah, no, and this
you
Asian
know?
American, it was my biggest fear. It's funny. I was kicking off a meeting in San Jose, and I wanted to kind of start off with a little bit of Chinese, just to kind of, because I knew the audience wouldn't understand, like the few Chinese wouldn't understand it. And I really had to rehearse like one line, right? Like, 你好吗？我今天要用中文. And then I was like really nervous. I was all sweating,
Yeah.
getting ready for it.
I can
But
see
one
that.
of the big reasons, Hansel, you talked about family man. One of the big reasons I want to go back was not just for me personally, which was good for my career, but also my son was 4 at the time, Kyle, that you mentioned, and I knew how hard Mandarin was to learn as an adult, so I wanted him to learn it natively as a kid.
Oh, I love it. So is he
Brilliant.
is he fluent? I didn't know that.
He is. His tones are perfect.
Huh.
his vocabulary is about as bad as mine, and his grammar is terrible. So
That is
that's
a great
very
age,
embarrassing.
though. I was going to ask that. Like moving your family there has got to be so difficult, and especially on a kid, moving from school. But at the age of 4, I think that's a perfect age because they don't really care or know better. I personally have can relate to that a little bit because we were going to try to do a gap year and maybe spend, a year in Spain or something. But my daughter was a
Hmm.
little bit already too old, and so you can't do that when they're like 12 or 13 because they have friends established and everything. So kudos to you. That's
Yeah,
awesome that you were able to do
another
that.
side benefit, anyone listening with young kids is Asia, not just China, but they have domestic help, right? In China, we call them IE, right? That's
Mm.
super affordable. So as an American, you feel very uncomfortable going there using such a service. You're like, oh man, this is kind of like um, indentured servants. But if you kind of accept it as, oh, I'm helping the economy and
Yeah.
they're helping me and they don't have another job,
And that's
um,
just what they do there, right? You probably
that's
had
just
a
like do
driver too,
it's
right?
yeah, it's
Probably had a
normal.
cook.
And it was I mean it's incredible, right? Like you can basically choose which part of parenting you want to do. You don't have to do
Wow.
the cleaning and all that stuff. And of course we couldn't even tutor the Chinese lessons, right? So our IE was his Chinese tutor as well. She was
Yeah.
awesome.
It'd be interesting to
No,
see
that
what
is,
China's like now, because Miley, my oldest, she's in Shanghai right now, as you know, and so I suspect it's a little bit different than when you guys were there. Especially there's not like a lot of expats, U.S. people there and all that stuff. It's pretty different.
Hazel, I want to use that opportunity to talk about timing because I think that's a big part of life. Obviously, as you guys do startups, it's not like coding school was the only guy who thought of this idea, but timing and execution. But, if your idea is too early or too late, sometimes it doesn't work. Our timing was immaculate. It was like 30 years of growth in China. But, before that, even when we landed, it felt a little pioneering, right? There was like one
Wow.
good French restaurant, one good Italian restaurant. um, but if you don't mind, I'll do a little segue. It's like I
Yeah.
think of that period, early 2000s in China. So if you think about the mega trends in the United States, like 1900 was when the US kind of entered the global stage, right? Like New York was challenging London, right? In the
right.
financial markets. In the
Yeah,
1950s, the nifty 50s is when the veterans came back from World War II. They went through government subsidized colleges, and the whole middle class of America was formed. Buying all the white goods like refrigerators and TVs and cars, right? So that drove the economy
exactly.
for another 50 years. And then 2000, what we were lucky to go through was the internet .com growth, right? So the whole
And the
economy,
crash.
yeah, the crash, but then the subsequent, Web 2.0 and then Web 3.0.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
three huge mega trends that drove the economy for the United States over 50-year blocks, right? In
Yeah,
China, all three of these mega trends happened at the same time, right? So it's like
yeah,
2000, Shanghai was coming on the global stage. Remember the Beijing Olympics and then the Shanghai Expo, right? And then the moving of like 300 million Chinese, 300, the whole size of the United States into the middle class, right? And then the .com, as I just explained, like Alibaba, beating eBay, which was unheard of, and when they were like, oh, my eBay executives like, maybe we should go buy Tencent. I'm like, Tencent is larger than us in market cap. so, so it was,
absolutely.
so think of that. That was the crazy times. And so basically from 2000 to 2015, let's say, it was insane times in Shanghai.
Wow. Right place, right time, man. There's
Right
nothing
place,
wrong
right
with a little
time.
bit luck. That's awesome. And now the right place for you is Hawaii.
That's
Not a
right.
bad place to be. So let's see. So let's wrap up this section by asking about your White Castle. So our book is about finding a White Castle. So we're terming that as sort of a cool life goal that maybe you accomplished, or maybe you're still looking for your next one, even though you have so many White Castles, I'm sure, right? But tell
Exactly.
us, Alan, from your perspective, like, do you have a White Castle that you found, or are you still like looking for a next one?
So, I was thinking about this question. It was like, I was thinking it's kind of like Kung Fu Panda. You get to the the end of the movie and the answer is a white, blank page,
Yeah,
Yeah, the
right?
the
scroll. You're
scroll.
the
We
The
secret
use that.
scroll.
sauce.
We use that in our training. You
Oh
are
my
the secret
gosh,
sauce.
Yeah.
that's
That's
funny.
the. But yeah, elaborate, please, because I'd love to hear your take on this.
Yeah, so if we back up a little bit, like Asian Americans, with tiger parents, you're constantly trying to achieve and get goals and get promoted and get the next job. And if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, God forbid, you can be an engineer, right? But those are like the three things you can be. And so, I spent my whole life doing those things. And my wife was studying to be a life coach, and I was just learning the stuff by osmosis. And she came across this personality test trait kind of test called Enneagram. So Ennea is nine in Greek, Enneagram has nine numbers. So it's kind of like the Myers-Briggs, but it's a little bit more, wooey type of thing. So at first I kind of mocked it and didn't understand what it was all about.
Yeah.
But so I'm technically a three based on the test, which is an achiever, which sounds great, right? You achieve, you get stuff done. Perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what my career was about, was achieving. But the wisdom of Enneagram is that your greatest strength is also your greatest weakness. And so my constant desire to achieve, why do I constantly desire to achieve, is the seeking for external validation. People saying, great job, Alan, here's the gold star, here's the trophy, the promotion or whatever. But you realize that's kind of a hollow victory. You get something, you feel happy, just like when you buy a new car, you're happy for like
Yeah.
a month, and then
Right.
it doesn't matter anymore, right? So that's the risk of material gains, is that it's a false guide. So in this sense, it's learning to not be chasing something. So the irony of my White Castle is to be comfortable. My White Castle is where I am at the moment.
I love that.
Nice.
That
So,
is
nice.
so
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 basically, you're
great.
saying don't chase the money and just chase the chill and just like the experience of it.
I
Is that
have
what
to
you're saying?
admit, it's a little easier to say when you have the money.
Yeah. That's
No doubt. Yeah, you
no
only say it once you're
true.
successful, right?
Yeah, that's right. After you've got it all, then be happy with it all. So, but
So
in all
yeah,
honesty,
it is this
I see
step.
a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, Wayne, it's to step off the treadmill when you have it, right? So some of my friends are, they're doing great and they're like, I'm making so much money, but I'm kind of bored of my job. Should I retire like you? And I'm like, shut up and go back to work. You're making lots of money and money doesn't grow on trees. But
Right.
my attitude is like, hey, if you hate your job and life is terrible and you're all depressed, and which were, even though externally at PayPal times looked great, from an outside view it looked great. Inside I was very unhappy. So there was, a lot of stress, and as you get higher up, it's a lot more politics versus getting the job done, right? So that in that sense, I think finding your comfort zone and where your real strengths and are for society is more valuable.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's
I totally agree with that. I mean, I find a lot of that in myself, trying to learn and improve and grow and mature in being a happy person, I think is where it really comes at because you will always, you'll succeed or whatnot. You're always trying to get more money or have a better title but or even in sports, you're trying to, and pushing your kids to accomplish this level or whatnot, but there'll always be the other kid or the other person that is accomplishing more or has done
Mhm.
more. And if you're always looking at that, you're not that happy. And so I think you have to, the glass is half full. You have to always look at the half of water that you have and be happy with that. But as you said, it doesn't mean to shut off all your pursuits to try to get more water in your glass. Like you can always do that as long as you're enjoying life and appreciate, the glass, the half of glass of the water that you have. So I think I love that. Coming back to the whole panda thing. That's
yeah.
perfect.
Well, right on. Well, so let's move on to the Asian section because so now we know you're an achiever, but you don't really want to be an achiever. You just want to chill. I think that's what we're hearing. But let's move to the
Yeah.
Asian section here. So let's before we talk about so we want to hear a little bit more about your Asian identity and sort of how you feel about being Asian. But we'll start the question this way, and I don't think I prepped you with this question, but top of your head. So if you had to rate yourself from 1 to 10, 1 being pure rice and 10 being a banana, like yellow on the outside, white on the inside. So are you 1 or are you 10 or somewhere in the middle in terms of are you Asian or are you like American or are you like right down the middle and why?
I would say probably 8 or 9, maybe. I mean, if 10 was like FOB, then maybe not there, but um,
So
yeah,
8 or 9 like towards the Asian side.
yeah,
Towards the
very
rice.
banana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
My mom brought me, even though I grew up in a very white Connecticut, bunch of Jewish friends and very few Asians, my sister and me and maybe another couple
Oh,
younger
I didn't know
folks.
that. I wouldn't have
Yeah,
guessed that about you, Alan. I would have guessed you grew
yeah,
up in an Asian community.
no.
Yeah, me too.
And so my mom was very, very proud of being Asian. So that imprinted pretty strongly on me. So I give her credit. It's like I could have gone to school in the East Coast and would have been closer to home. And she was like, no, go out to Stanford. It's in California, and there's a lot more Asians. And of course I really
And it's
blossomed out.
Stanford.
And at
Yeah.
Stanford, exactly. Any Asian parent will be like, leave home 1,000 miles away to go to Stanford. I think that's
Well,
it,
my
there's a little
dad was
difference.
like, I got into MIT, and my dad was like, you didn't choose MIT? What's wrong with you? At that
Wait a
time,
minute. Okay, if you did get into MIT, okay, I'm with your dad a little bit
yeah,
too.
nobody
Like, what?
really knew about Stanford outside of the US at the time, I would say.
So let's see. So you're a Stanford. So I know that you are helping to launch this Asian American thing at Stanford. Tell us more about that. That's very Asian related.
Well, let me give the kind of the history, the trend line of this Asian American thing. So, I was proud of being Asian, but there was actually no outlet for it. At Stanford, obviously, I joined the Asian American Club and the Chinese American Club, and I was tangentially involved, but I was double E, so I was spending most of my time studying. But senior year, I freed up some time and I launched Lambda Phi Epsilon, which is an Asian American fraternity with my good friends. It was the first private chapter of Lambdas. So we
Wow,
launched that at Stanford, and that was
amazing.
a really great experience because you're talking about what is the legacy you want for a fraternity on Stanford campus, and fraternities are not really or sororities. The Greek system is not very big at Stanford, maybe only like 10%. Um, and then Hansel and Wayne, I think you guys know, after I graduated, I started M Society West, which was basically a
Hey,
party
yeah, that's how I
organization.
met my wife.
That's
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
responsible for my whole
Yeah.
family.
so
Talk
all the
about
women at the time
impact.
were like, "Oh my God, what a terrible meat market!" What does the M stand for? Meat market.
Like,
But
what does M
as you
stand
know,
for?
Hansel,
That is my one question.
how many of our friends have met from that, right? And the
Yeah, dude,
women
right?
Right.
now don't really admit to it.
Yeah,
But
everybody
yeah,
wants a meat
actually, your
market.
wife Lisa and I threw tons of parties. It was great.
Yeah.
It was a really fun way to bring Asian Americans together. And at the time, when you're in college, you meet friends, and then after you graduate, you're like, wow, it's actually kind of hard to make new friends, right? So it was great to once a quarter bring people together. And then you kind of fast forward, then I went to work. I went to China. I came back and it was my 30th reunion at Stanford, and my alumni friend called me up and said, "Hey, do you want to get involved with this class gift thing that we're thinking about?" And basically, Asian Americans did not have a department on Stanford. And I'm like, wow, we're like 25% of the student body, and we don't really have any recognition. And the Jeannie Tai, our classmate, who ran the Asian American, I don't even know what it's called, but something on campus. She had an annual budget of like $5,000. I'm like, what? You can buy some coffee for some interns, right?
Yeah.
Like this is Stanford with a couple $1 billion, you know,
Right.
and they that's I always thought it was so insulting. So a couple friends of us, we got together and we were like, let's set a high bogey. We wanted to raise $30 million to
Wow.
launch the Asian American Research Center at Stanford. We started with a goal of a department, but we realized that was too heavy a lift, so we kind of stepped down to a research center. But essentially, and it's launched. So we raised the first 10 million, and that allowed us to launch it. And
Wow.
it's essentially the connective tissue between the five schools, right? There's the med school, business school, law school, and but they don't really talk to each other. Everyone's kind of like in their own silos. Secondly, it allows us to have a department head or a staff person to actually handle events. So for example, Stanford wanted to put an Asian American conference on. Before, the professors had full-time jobs, right? They didn't have time to do this. And then, of course, our real goal is to get a tenured professor in, because in the past, all these professors who teach Asian American stuff, they do it within their department, like the history department or the art department. And so their tenureship is not tied to Asian Americans. It's almost like all extracurricular. So we would love to have an Asian American professor who can, get tenured for teaching Asian American history. And to really tie this all back, why do I care? This was during COVID when we started it. And, you remember Asian hate, and, grandmas were getting bonked on the back of the head for being
absolutely.
Asian, right? Like, this is insane, right? What's going on? And, Asians, we've tended to be apolitical and not worry about stuff, and, tend not to give philanthropy. So we're a very low donor class within, educational systems or political systems. And I'm looking at the Asian hate, and now with the political system where it's going, and the possible tension rise of are getting into a conflict with with China because of Taiwan, is pretty significant. It wasn't that long ago we had the Japanese internment camps, during World War II.
Right, which is crazy to think about.
Which is insane, right? You're like, oh, we're beyond that.
That's insane. Yeah, absolutely.
But what if in 3 years, let's say we got into a Cold War with China, or even a hot war, would the CIA or the FBI start picking up Asian Americans and say, hey, you guys look suspicious?
Sadly, I'd be afraid that it's possible.
Depends on who's in office, I guess.
Exactly. I was about to say, sadly, I would be a little concerned,
Yeah.
So then, Alan, this thing that you're doing with Stanford, is it to help raise awareness for things like that they're able to have conferences and things like that?
That's my goal. I mean, obviously they start off with a little more Asian American history, and I'm like, well, we don't really need another book about railroad workers. Wow, that's a tongue twister. But I would like Stanford to kind of use its position to raise awareness about Asian Americans. And I supported Evan Lowe as his run for Congress. He's a young Asian American in the Bay Area running. He's in the Congress today on the House of Reps side. State California side. But it's like we need representation. So kind of going longer to your podcast here is, as we reach out to young Asian Americans or their parents, it's like we need Asian Americans to be in the legal system, not just like corporate law, but like, my good friend Goodwin Liu, my classmate from 91, who's a Supreme Court judge out of LA. We need people like him, because who's going to defend our civil rights if they come under threat?
Yeah.
Well,
wow. Well, I think I just thought of something for you, Alan. You need to come out of retirement here and run for office, my man.
That was exactly what I was going to say. Hansel, we were tied. That was exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, that number 3 that you've been labeled, put that back on, get out there, start achieving, and run for office, because I'll be the first to vote for you. I mean,
thank you.
That'd be awesome. You would totally fit for an office guy. That'd be amazing.
Even your name.
I feel like Alan, you probably have a bunch of other stories as well that would be really interesting to to our audience here. So we laid out 3 possible stories that you can tell us about yourself, and so we kind of categorize them a bit. So this first one is about your 15 minutes of fame. I'm sure you've had something. What is your biggest, coolest 15 minutes of fame that you can tell us about?
Oh man. Well, I guess I did a TEDx in Hong Kong when I was at PayPal. But I was just like doing stuff with PayPal all the time. So I'll tell you the funniest one is my PR team said, "Hey, Alan, there's this conference in, I don't know, Shenzhen or something. Can you go speak?" I'm like, "Sure." Is it in English? Because in Chinese I sound like a 3-year-old, right? So I'm like, "PayPal 很好。你应该用." So they're like, "Oh no, you can do it in English. There will be a translator." So I'm like, "Fine." So I show up, they're putting the mic on me, and then I walk out on stage, and I had no idea. I literally just kind of flew in, walked on, and it was this huge auditorium, and there was like 1,000 people there. I'm like,
Oh
oh
man.
my God, you gotta tell me that this is not for like 100 people, you know? That was a little scary. So I want to say that's 15
So
minutes of
did it
fame.
go
That was
okay?
funny.
Did you get the applause at the end? And you were
You
like,
know, it
I'm the
was in
man.
English. I think they had no idea what was going on, so
Yeah,
whatever.
all right. Translators
Nice.
just making stuff up off the cuff, just
Yeah,
saying
Yeah.
things, you
exactly.
know?
Oh, by the way, if you speak two languages, you listen to a translator, you're like, oh, there's 2 million, users or 100 million users, and then they'll translate like there's a lot.
Handor, handor,
Yeah.
Honduran.
handor.
Nice.
Love it.
All right, cool. So, all right. So, what about something you did with a best friend? So, Wayne and I are best friends, obviously, and that's part of the reason why we wrote our book. But do you have a good, interesting story about something you did with a best friend or just a close friend?
Well, my story about going to China was literally my best friend Bennett Yen, who was ran M Society with me. Um, he just finished the Oracle sales trip for like 2, 3 weeks in China. Actually, it wasn't just Shanghai, and he flew back and literally landed at the airport at SFO, and his wife was already over at our house cooking dinner with us, and he drove down and he was like, "Alan, we got to go to China," and I literally thought he was joking, right? Because again, I barely spoke. We knew nothing about China, so I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. And do you remember the time Entourage was really hot, right? The TV show?
Yeah, that was a great show.
It was a great show. And
Yeah.
so I was like, I'll be your turtle, I'll just like
Oh
drive
yeah,
you around
turtle.
in Taiwan, right?
Right.
In
Yeah.
China. And
Yeah.
then, sure enough, a year later, like I remember going to talk to and this is a good life lesson is, ask for what you want. So I went to my boss and said, hey, I know eBay just bought this company, EachNet in China. And if PayPal is ever going there, I'd like to, be part of it. And 6 months passed, nothing happened. I thought they didn't hear me or whatever. And then one day they're like, cancel your trip. I was about to go launch a product, and they're like, cancel that trip. You're going to this secret meeting tomorrow. I show up the meeting. There's like 10 other, senior execs. I was probably the lowest guy on the totem pole there. And they're like, we're going to China. You're going to lead the dev team or you're going to lead the
Whoa.
product team for China. We're hiring 40 FTEs, full-time equivalents, which was like the largest hire in the history of PayPal. We're going to launch the largest project we've ever did in the history of PayPal, um, and you're going to lead it. And yeah, so that's what I did. It's like, I mean, that's probably my internal fame, Hansel. It's like,
It's insane, though.
these things that you do in product, you don't know. Like from the external world, it's like, what's the big deal? You just kind of toggle a few things and then it comes on in China, right? We had to connect to Chinese banks, which didn't really understand what APIs were. We had to translate 1 million characters from English into Chinese. We had to upgrade our database to UTF-8 to handle double byte, which was a
Yeah.
Oh
super
man.
huge risk that we could just blown up the whole database for
Yeah.
PayPal, but it worked.
Yeah.
So these are all super behind the scenes stuff. And in the middle of that, we all went on hiatus for 3 months because eBay had gone down. And so all hands were on deck on keeping that alive. And then, so we lost 3 months out of a 1 year schedule that was already super duper tight. But we still launched it on schedule June 2005. So sorry, that was a
Man.
long answer, but just
But
No.
the insanity of going through like something like that where you're building something in a brand new country and all that. Wayne and I definitely have not gone through that. But Wayne,
Yeah.
if you want to move to China sometime, maybe we should try that. We'll
Yeah,
follow
that's
Alan's
right.
footsteps.
Start opening up some coder schools in China and try to go
Yeah.
through all of that. Oh my
All
God.
right. So last awesome story from you. Let's see. So most interesting bucket list item. What would that be? That you either done or that you want to do?
Or have you done it all already, Alan?
I've done a lot recently. Last year, I was saying was that did a ton of travel. We were invited to Cairo, Egypt, for a wedding. So that was pretty insane. I mean, these guys were obviously very, very wealthy, and we literally had the pyramids as a backdrop. It looks like a
Whoa.
green screen,
So it's
a
like Crazy
picture.
Rich Asians, but not
Yeah, it's
me.
like, yeah, they were,
It is
yeah, it was
surreal.
like crazy rich Egyptians, right?
Yeah.
Um, And then the other bucket list item was to go to Istanbul. So I wanted to go for a long time, and I convinced my mom, my cousin, my aunt, and not my niece, my cousin's daughter, but I call her my niece. It's easier. And we all went, and it was good, but there was two ER trips with my mom and my
Oh
aunt,
no.
because so this is the risk of traveling with 80-year-olds, right? So I would say
Yeah.
that kind of dampened the experience a little bit.
Dang.
Yeah, nice, nice, Wayne. What does that mean, Wayne? Why did you
What does
gong,
that
Alan?
mean? That means that it is time for the game show part, which we're going to take you into. Just a
To the
little bit of
dragon.
a wild transition
Oh,
from our 5th century Chinese gong. Hansel had to dig that up. No, actually, it's just a, soundbite that Hansel found that's really funny and
yeah,
nifty.
blame it on me. All right. Anyway,
Yeah, that's right.
so some awesome stories, Alan. This is we're going to jump into an entertainment section just to give our audience something to think about. All right, so we're going to give you a 3-question quiz about something random Asian, and let's see if you are an overachieving Asian or not. You don't have to speak the language, FYI.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can get ChatGPT out. You can get ready. You can cheat. It's fine.
All right.
Totally fine.
Okay, we'll start with an easy one. Number 1, in what Asian country did boba tea originate?
Taiwan.
Oh, very nice.
Sweet.
Very
Oh,
nice. Easy. All
yeah.
right, so I'll have to give you the
Nice.
slightly harder version of that. What's
Yeah.
boba made of?
Tapioca.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. I
Sweet.
had to look that up.
Dang, dang. He's
All right, so
cranking.
you're two for one, I guess. All right.
2 for 1. Yeah, it's double bonus. He's an achiever, though. He's an achiever. He's a number
Overachieving
3.
already.
He's overachieving, and we'll pat you on the back. You get the whole thing that you like. Yeah, there we go.
All right, so let's see this. So I know you are also living in Singapore for a while, which is an awesome city state. So this one is about the Crazy Rich Asians movie. So name one. I'm going to make you name two. Name two actors from the movie.
Oh man. Well,
That's a tough one.
uh, give him a chance. Probably the hottest actress in the world.
Nice,
So
nice. Wow,
I
I wouldn't
know
have picked
her.
her as the
Yeah,
first
there's
one.
one.
Yeah. I
Dang.
can't remember that main actress. Like, there's that Asian or the half dude, the Hapa guy, Henry,
Yeah,
whatever.
Henry
I don't know
Golden.
his last
Yeah,
name.
yeah, you got
Gold,
him.
yeah,
Yeah,
Golden, yeah.
There
He
you
is
go.
freaking good looking too.
yeah.
He's pretty
That
good.
dude is.
Wayne mentions him every time we talk about that movie, so
Yeah,
I think
that
Wayne's
dude,
in love
man.
with
Yeah.
him. All right,
Three for
I have
three.
a bonus question from there too. Okay, actually, you're a local, so maybe you'll know this one. Who is related to the director, or what is the parents? What is the what is the parents of the director? What do they do in the Bay Area? That's like a double question in there.
Whoa.
First,
Wait a
who's the
minute,
director, and then what do the
is
parents
it
do?
John Chu?
It is John Chu.
Oh, so he's the Chef Chu's
Chef
owner.
Chu! Wow,
Yeah,
that is
Chef
a triple
Chu.
dinger.
Double, 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 and a level up.
Wow,
You
this is
got it
a
all.
serious overachiever.
Serious
All right,
overachiever.
all
Hilarious
right.
sound effects.
Last awesome question. All right, let's see how you are with older pop culture here. What famous basketball player did Bruce Lee fight?
Oh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Nice,
Dang.
nice.
Cannot stump
Wow,
you.
you're barely
I was
even.
gonna guess George Takei, but you changed the question.
But
Yeah,
he's not a
Sulu.
basketball player.
Sulu. Yeah, but he was pretty awesome for his, Star Trek role.
No,
All
he was
right.
like
Well,
the
three
first
for
Asian
three,
American
Wayne.
we saw on the silver screen, right? So we were like, oh, and
Oh
besides
yeah.
Bruce Lee, but first Asian American, right?
Oh yeah. And
True.
and gay.
True.
As a
Yeah,
guy,
and gay, of
I mean,
course,
there was
as a
Yeah.
Connie
guy.
Chung, who was the
Funny Chang.
newscaster, but as a male role model, who was there?
No one
Yeah,
except
it
for
was just a
Bruce.
Bruce.
Just
Yeah,
the Bruce.
exactly.
Only Bruce. That's right.
I mean,
And
he'd be
then
the
Long
only
Duck
one
Dong,
that,
maybe.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So everyone was like, "Oh, you're the Long Duck Dong guy." Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it wasn't good for us. It wasn't good for
Yeah.
us.
well,
It's gotten a lot better.
we lived the real world life of Revenge of the Nerds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We absolutely did. We were the nerds. All right, Wayne. And what prize did Alan win for killing it on the Asian quiz?
Yeah, so for killing it and 100%, you will receive a copy of our book, The Coder Bros Go to White Castle. Yeah.
We should
And if
have
you're
had
really
you guess
lucky,
that as our fourth question.
yeah. We'll sign it, and Hansel will deliver it in person to Hawaii.
Awesome.
Actually, yeah.
All right. So we're about hitting the time limit here. So Alan, we at the end of this podcast, we'll just give you the floor for anything you want to tell the audience. I don't know if you want to promote yourself, promote your business, give us a life tip, anything you want to say to the audience.
Wow, that's a really open-ended
Wide-ranging.
question. I like going back to that. Find your spaces. So it's not really find your passion, right? That people always talk about that. That's a bunch of bull crap. It's your passion is formed based on what you spend time doing, and if you like it, you will do well at it. Um, but I also I'm still practical, so I don't believe like run off and go do whatever. I'm glad my son is not a ski instructor, right? I'm glad
Right,
he's
right.
he's doing a job in Wells Fargo in San
Yeah,
Francisco. But I tell him it's like, dude, you don't need to do the FaceTime, 5 o'clock, go play pickleball, right? Like it's don't
Nice.
waste your life doing stupid things. So the big tip for everyone is it's not how hard you work. It's not how great you do your job. It's really the relationships, right? Like
mm,
Wayne and Hansel, we're talking because of friendships from 30 years ago, right?
yeah,
The clear in my mind is I would have gone further in my career if I had, golfed more or went drinking with the guys when I came back to San Francisco or whatever, right? I did okay, but there's still the next level, which as the kind of executive glass ceiling did not pass. And that comes down to what they use as a generic term of gravitas, right? Or in college entrances, Chinese students or Asian students kill the curve on everything. And then they use as something really fuzzy like personality or something like that, which the Asians tend to fail at. So I'm like, build out your human skills. The soft skills are probably even more important than the hard skills, especially as AI comes along.
I love that, man. I love that. That is a very
yeah.
anti-Asian sentiment, but I love that. We're all about that at the Coder School. It's all about the relationships with the
Right.
parents.
It is. And
So
Hansel and I think, could get a lot better with that. So that's great advice for us because we try to sometimes hide away in a closet or
yeah,
something.
yeah, and we just pull out our
Seriously.
calculators.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
kind of do. But we'll take that
awesome.
advice because I believe in it.
Well, thanks, Alan. This has been an awesome conversation with you. I really appreciate the time. We'll let you guys. We'll let you know when this goes out public. But really appreciate your time, man. And congrats for being
Yeah.
such a successful stud.
And
Hey,
from
aloha,
PayPal
guys.
Asia, sheshe, sheshe, sheshe.
再见.
We are sponsored by none other than the Coder School, a company that teaches kids how to code with over 70 locations all around the country. So if you're interested in getting your kids to code, head online and check us out. Learn to code, change the world. Thanks for listening.